They told her matrimony forged of countless hearts would never endure. You can't love like that and preserve your soul, someone had once hissed, but the Brown household resisted external regulations. This evening, one unspoken signature on a legal sheet echoed from bedrooms, kitchen islands, and the little holy spaces where truths resided. A wife seeks divorce and will not speak. Gossip travels faster than fact. Kids catch snippets of muffled gossip and sew together tales from threads of glances, a slammed cabinet, and untouched plate. What everyone is eager to know is plain. Why? But the actual reason, when it finally emerges, will be a crack none of them anticipated. A past event concerning Kody that redraws every memory. This isn't a pageant of scandal for its own end. This is slow-motion grief. Betrayal masquerading as routine. And the family architecture of compromise and faith crumbling. In the days ahead, allegiances shift like sands. Friends sighed quietly. The cameras, both the physical ones and those that exist only in our imaginations, are drawn closer. Perhaps we were all pretending. A wisecracking older kid admits in a breath that is heavy with accusation, or perhaps the only thing keeping us breathing was pretending. Another replies without even glancing up. Keep me company. For what appears to be a broken promise is merely the first skin. Below there is a memory someone has struggled for years to entomb, and when it surfaces, it will compel every member to consider what they really owe each other. Honesty, covering, or silence. Comment below if you believe family loyalty can weather a secret like this, and then continue listening. Share your opinion in the comments below. After reading the entire story, she signs. She signs the papers, and yet the scratching of a pen on paper seems louder than any fight. Divorce doesn't have to have fireworks in this family, not with doors slamming or plates shattering, at least not today. It arrives with the most silent explosion. The one you don't notice until there's dust already in your lungs. The house that surrounds her doesn't even realize yet, but the earth underneath it has moved. Morning light pours across the blinds, striping the table where the envelope resides. It appears to be like any other, almost careless, as if it was for yesterday's mail. But she knows, and soon the rest of them will know, that this envelope holds a future none of them are prepared to confront. She clasps her hands, firm but white, and waits for the clock to tick. Perhaps if the minute hand lingers, she can gain one more moment of deception. But time doesn't hesitate for anyone, especially not in a household where every breath is shared and every silence is overheard. In another room, a child drops a backpack with the familiar thud that usually means school is about to start. Today, though, even that thud feels offbeat, like a drum played out of rhythm. She glances toward the hallway, and for a second she imagines telling them everything, laying the truth bare before the rumors can grow teeth. But her lips stay closed, and the secret stays sealed. Not yet. Not like this. What the children see first are the little differences. Breakfast is less noisy. Their mother's smile isn't quite as wide as her eyes. Their father holds up with phone in hand, thumb scrolling even as his coffee grows cold. Schedules written on the whiteboard still yell of normal life, soccer practice, piano lessons, grocery shopping, but the ink tastes artificial. Graffiti painted across damaged walls. The routines are the same, but the beat is lost. They don't know the facts. But rumors spread quickly in neighborhoods where each mailbox is near, and every look means something. Someone sees Kody's truck out too early in the morning. Someone else takes an oath they spotted one of the wives at the courthouse recently. None of it is true. All of it retold, until rumor-mongering becomes a cacophony louder than the truth. And when gossip spreads, children overhear, even if they act as though they don't. Within the home, tension lurks in the tiniest crevices. A teenager questions, "Are we still going to Grandma's this weekend?" The wait for the response is longer than the response itself. Another child returns from school, questioning why classmates have talked about things they shouldn't have known. A mother's hand pauses mid-fold, gaze flicking toward the window, as if the glass would tell her who's been gossiping. These aren't bombs, but they hurt anyway. Divorce in a polygamous home isn't simply two individuals divorcing. It's a fault line that runs through each room, each sibling relationship, each custom. When one mother leaves, The children in each home feel the foundation give way. Dinner tables once filled with overlapping speech now have vacant seats. No one is brave enough to claim. Phone calls remain unanswered. Invitations become smaller. Even silence has become politicized. Where you sit next to, where you refuse, what you say with your eyes, when your mouth is closed. Still, she won't tell the reason. To the family, to the neighbors, even to herself in the mirror, she gives only the fact of the papers, not the why. Her silence is shield and weapon, and it is more painful than words could ever be. Because silence provokes imagination, and imagination has a tendency to turn cruel. The other wives start to speculate. Did she find out something? Was there infidelity? Or worse, something obscene? Kids overhear snippets of midnight talks, weaving together their own hypotheses like beads on a cord too fragile to support. And Kody, his response is the most puzzling of all. He doesn't shout, doesn't beg, doesn't break down in sorrow. He retreats. He stands in doorways, half hearing. He sends calls to voicemail. He drifts around the house like a ghost of himself, there but inaccessible. Outside to the rest of the world, he maintains a sharp smile, a steady voice, but within the household walls, his silence echoes hers, and two silences sandwiched together brew a storm louder than thunder. By the afternoon, the grapevine has gone into overdrive. Phones ring with unanswered calls. Relatives message with heavy questions, but gentle concern. Friends write cryptic lines on social media about heartbreak, and everyone is sure they know who it is about. The children scroll through these messages and see themselves in the subtext. They might not be privy to the secret, but they know enough to feel its gravity. And throughout it all, she maintains her dignity, like armor. She cooks dinner, irons clothes, smiles when required, but there are fissures. A plate put down a trifle too forcefully, hesitation before responding to a child's guileless question, the manner in which her eyes remain targeted on the middle distance as though replaying what only she can perceive. She does not cry, at least not here, not yet. She stores the tears hidden away, folded up between pages that no one else may read. Late that night, when the children settle into fitful sleep, she sits once more at the kitchen table. The envelope is lost now, gone where it had to go, but on its place is a box. It is old, frayed at the edges, the type of box that appears ordinary to anyone who doesn't suspect what's inside. Her fingers lie across the top, but do not lift it. On the surface, it might be anything: letters, photos, receipts from years past. But the quiver of her hand indicates that it's something more substantial, something that has lingered too long in the darkness. The phone rests face down next to it, vibrating once, then twice, left untouched both times. She does not reach to pick it up. Rather, she watches the box, as if it dares her to open it, as if the truth within is both the reason she went away, and the reason she cannot yet talk. Her expression is impossible to read, flat, steady, but with the slightest edge of something more: regret, fear, resolve. For a moment, even she does not know. And thus the day concludes, not in conflict, not in screaming, not even in resolution. It concludes with a woman sitting alone in the stillness, holding back a secret that one day will need to be told. The camera, if it were present, would pause upon her face, serene but broken, inscrutable but full of significance. Because what she has in that box is more than the tale of a divorce. It's the tale of a former accident no one else will speak of, one that could unravel all the family believed they had learned. And soon enough, some other person in this house is going to discover. Silence rolls through the house like fog, heavy and impenetrable. It lingers in bedrooms, in conversations never begun, in the silences between footsteps in the hall. At first, the kids assume it is temporary, the sort of silence following an argument, but then they realize it isn't letting up. Their mother, the one who signed on the dotted line, moves with the sort of composure that only appears strong if you don't notice the tension in the jaw. She talks when needed, never too little, never too much. Her silence is a shield, guarding her against answers she is not prepared to give. Shields do break, though, no matter how strong. The younger kids feel something is amiss, but are not sure what. They pose tiny, tentative questions at the periphery of dinner table talk. Are we going to the park this weekend? Is Dad still coming with us on vacation? The responses are evasive, usually accompanied by an attempt at a smile that deceives no one. The older children, however, are different. They've acquired the skill to read the tension in a room, to listen for meaning in what is not said, and they start whispering to one another, connecting snippets of overheard dialogue. In the dim light of the family room, one evening, two sisters sit cross-legged on the floor. One leans forward and says, in a soft whisper, "She's hiding something from us." The other glares at the flickering TV and says, "Maybe it's better we don't know." The first sister shakes her head. Secrets don't stay secrets forever. They just get heavier. A teenager up above relives a memory. He recalls his mother gazing at a box a few days earlier in that week, her fingers poised above the lid as if weighing whether to open it. He didn't query her then, but the picture sticks with him, nagging at his mind. That evening, when he lies awake, the recollection is clearer. The slumping of her shoulders, the look in her eyes older than she should be. He doesn't know what's inside the box, but he feels certain it holds more than paper. Meanwhile, Kody's silence unsettles the entire household. He comes and goes like a shadow, moving from room to room without truly being present. When he does speak, his words feel rehearsed, clipped as though he's rehearsing lines for a play he doesn't believe in. To strangers, he shows confidence, still the patriarch, still the beaming husband. But behind these doors, he is more subdued, observing, listening, weighing. The children catch on, the wives catch on, and the silence is denser because it's no longer solely hers. It's his as well. Gossip, however, does not remain silent. It spills out in whispers and texts, in half-truths offered to nosy relatives. Before long, the rest of the world starts to make up its own stories. Some claim she wanted a divorce because she's sick of sharing. Others say she uncovered secrets about money, or worse, an affair. None of it is true, but none of it is all false either. For rumor does not require truth to live on. It requires only ears ready to hear. And the kids, no matter how careful the parents are, listen to the rumors as well. In school, friends refer to things they shouldn't know. "My mom said your dad's in trouble," says one matter-of-factly at lunch. A second child giggles and whispers, "My aunt says your family's on TV because of the divorce." The older siblings bring these words home, cramming them into the crevices of silence, until the house itself is haunted by voices that are not their own. The narrator's tone mollifies, as if sharing a secret with a friend. Picture being one of those kids, clutching questions too large for you, feeling answers hovering just out of sight. You see your parents sidestep each other's glances. You see the quiet where there's once been laughter. And you know, deep down inside, that something much larger than paperwork is happening. Late one night, one of the wives attempts to shatter the silence. She invites the others into the living room, urging them to talk frankly before the children get hurt by rumors they cannot comprehend. The room is full of tight, brittle air. The divorced wife sits rigidly, hands clasped, speaking little. Kody, slouching back in his chair, delivers brief answers that ring more like defense than reassurance. The other wives, caught between obedience and fear, speak just enough to dance around the subject without stroking its core. And so the silence prevails once more, engulfing their bid for clarity. But silence doesn't wash away memory. It makes it more acute. That evening, a child overhears something. Two whispers in the kitchen, not quite hushed. A wife says, she knows about before. The other speaks in a whisper. Don't say it out loud. The child, barefoot in the hallway, with cold tile beneath him, freezes. He doesn't know everything, but he knows enough. There is a before, and it matters. The following morning, the same child recounts the overheard phrase to a sibling out in the backyard. The words come out as easily as if he's discussing the weather. She knows about before. The sibling makes a face. Before what? The boy shrugs. I don't know, but I think it's bad. That sentence, flung into the chilly air of a backyard, weighs more than any accusation. It spreads among the children like wildfire, each one giving it his own interpretation, each one placing his own fear. Perhaps before is a fight. Perhaps it is money. Perhaps it is something worse, something they do not utter out loud. But they all agree on this. Their mother's silence is not empty, it's concealing something. By evening, the phrase has reached even the wives. They hear it whispered by the kids, and though they don't confront the children directly, Their glances at each other grow sharper. In a family this large, rumors are like echoes. They travel fast, bounce off walls, and return louder. And now everyone in the household, whether they admit it or not, has the same question burning inside. What happened before? As darkness descends, the teenager who had remembered the box concludes. He can no longer forget it. As the rest of the house lies in fitful sleep, he creeps down the stairs, the groan of every step ringing in his own ears. The kitchen is dark, moonlight pooling on the floor. The box remains on the table, exactly as it had previously, waiting patiently. He touches out, fingers grazing its surface. His heart is pounding. The box weighs more than it does when he picks it up slightly, as if it contains something more than mere objects. He stops, looking over toward the stairs, half expecting to hear footsteps. But the house remains silent. Too silent. Cautiously, slowly he opens the top, just a crack so he can see in. And there it is. Not piles of paper, not lost baubles, but one photograph on top, corners yellowed with age. He looks at it, mouth agape. Something doesn't feel right about it, like it doesn't belong to this family, or perhaps it belongs too strongly. In the corner of the picture, soft but clear, is a date. Undefined. A date that doesn't belong. The picture is tiny, but in his palm it is gigantic. Its corners are buckled, the edges softened by years of being pushed into a pocket or shirt, as if some hand had touched it numerous times before. The boy cradles it near his eyes, angling it toward the pale moonlight streaming in the window. On first glance, it appears to be nothing more than a snapshot of everyday life. Smiling people, a background that could be from any suburban street. But the longer he gazes, the more incorrect it seems. There's a handwritten date on the back, the sort of rapid writing that makes it seem like someone figured they might forget otherwise. But the year they wrote there isn't the year the family has always repeated. It's from a period before the cameras, before the glamour, before the sanitized history of the family. Everyone quotes like scripture. This picture is earlier than all of that, and its presence is a whispered secret about something the teenager can't quite grasp. His gaze lingers on a face in the distance, half hidden, hardly discernible. The smile is weak, almost a grimace, and the hand on the shoulder is more of a grip than a soft touch of love. He doesn't know why that figure bothers him, but it does. He strokes his thumb back over the date once more, muttering it under his breath. The sound of it is perilous, like reciting a spell you shouldn't speak out loud. He listens to sounds overhead and almost drops the photo in terror. He quickly tucks it back into the box, closes the lid, and puts it precisely where it was in the first place. But even as he sneaks back upstairs with his racing heart, the picture sears in his mind. By the time he is in bed, staring at the ceiling, the photo has already become a haunting. He knows he won't be able to forget it. The following day, the tension at home is palpable, as though invisible strings are drawing everyone closer to one another while simultaneously separating them. Breakfast is hurried, sentences curt. The teenager observes his mother as she pours coffee, her face carefully bland. He longs to inquire about the photo, but doesn't. The words remain stuck in his throat, unsaid. Instead, he tells it to his sister afterwards, when they're by themselves. "I saw something," he admits, speaking softly. She raises an eyebrow, dubious but interested. When he recounts the picture, the date, the strange face, the background detail, her complexion blanches. "That doesn't make sense," she breathes. "That's before." Neither of them explains what before is. The word suffices by itself. Whispers circulated among the siblings. That night, each one remembers a detail they themselves had not remembered before, stringing together details like puzzle pieces that don't fit. One of them recalls hearing their mother talk on the phone at midnight, voice shaking. Another remembers a neighbor talking about a night when Kody's truck was out for hours with no explanation given. They don't fit perfectly together, but the spaces between them are the most terrifying thing. The narrative slows, bending in close, pulling the reader into this conspiratorial circle of secrets. Ponder the thrill of being one of those kids, cobbling together bits of memory without adult permission to reveal the truth. Each new fact is proof, even when it isn't. Each silence is confirmation. And before you know it, the photograph is more than a photograph. It's evidence. Meanwhile, the wives are aware of the change. Children who used to laugh readily now become quiet when grown-ups walk into the room. Teenagers share glances around the dinner table, unspoken but fraught. And when asked bluntly what's the matter, they just shrug, not wanting to let on. The divorced wife observes this, and knows the secret is seeping out, knows that silence won't last forever. Her eyes give her away once, at a family dinner. There is a mention of a year casually, a recollection of a journey many years ago. As soon as the year is mentioned out loud, she winces. It's minute, a small wince, but enough to catch the attention of one of the older kids. They glance at her for a moment, and in the unspoken moment, the reality becomes heavier. Later that night, the boy is back in the box. He doesn't open it, he just looks at it, struggling with the urge. He knows the photo is still there, waiting. He remembers the date, the half-concealed face, the hand on the shoulder. He wonders what it could be, and he wonders whether his mother suspects he's looked. The rumors come to Kody as well, though no one dares to challenge him face to face. He sees the sidelong looks, the muted chuckles that cease when he enters the room, the dropped conversations between siblings. His reaction is as subdued as ever, but his eyes become keener, observant. One night, walking by the living room, he stops, hearing the tail end of a sentence. The photograph. His face sets for an instant, then relaxes again. He doesn't query, he doesn't require to. Time passes, but the picture is the fulcrum upon which all things turn. No one will admit it out loud, yet its existence affects every conversation. The narrator's tone changes now, more ominous, nearly conspiratorial. The secret is no longer a matter of whether, but when. When will someone insist on knowing? When will silence at last yield to confrontation? One evening, the kid makes a decision. He removes the picture from the box once more, and holds it out for his sister to see. They examine it in the beam of a bedside lamp. She sees something he had not caught earlier, a street sign in the distance, readable only with great effort, but sufficient to pinpoint the location. It's not where they believed, not by a long shot. The siblings share a glance, wide-eyed, fear and sureness. This is not merely a wrong date, this is a wrong location, which means that the family history they've been presented with, the one that explains where they started, how they expanded, how they became what they are, is full of fissures large enough to collapse through. They put the picture away once more, but too late. The seed's been planted, and it's growing quickly. By morning, the rumor with the siblings has changed. Perhaps the divorce is not about now, perhaps it's about then. And as the narrator's tone gentles into the conclusion of this session, the imaginary camera zooms in on the photograph, one more time, the date in ink on the back, the half-concealed face, the hold that more resembles restraint than love. Because when a family's past starts to come apart at the seams, it usually begins not with a confession, but with a picture that doesn't belong where it was discovered. The visit concludes with the adolescent whispering the date out loud to himself, as if weighing it. Whose memory is this date? And why has it been kept secret all these years? The date on the photo rests like a bruise, small, nearly imperceptible, until you push on it and everything puffs up. As soon as the siblings catch wind of it, the house alters its beat. Days start to be measured not by chores or school, but by that date and the questions it raises. People start counting backwards. Where was who? What did who say? Who was not there when the family recounted its tale of what happened? Memory is now a currency that everybody starts trading in, and trust, something once taken for granted, starts to feel tenuous. They dig out forgotten calendars, the paper ones with small squares and birthday stickers. In a handbag, a scrawled piece of paper contains a different itinerary. On a saved voicemail too long in coming, someone laughs at a journey that none of them can recall taking. A receipt stuffed into a cookbook bears the name of a city other than their own. These tiny domestic treasures are suddenly loaded with meaning. Each of them pushes the date on the photograph into the center of a narrative nobody wished to pursue. Around that year, conversation stutters at the breakfast table. A house sale is mentioned. Another person strikes a date out on the calendar. The narrator sits back, waiting as the family's built past starts to lean. The divorced wife responds with little controlled sentences. She is careful with information, as if each additional word would be evidence. She is not silent through ignorance. She is strategic. She guards things not because she is embarrassed, but because she has come to understand that speaking their name is to alter their shape, and sometimes their peril. Kody's name is mentioned like a rock dropped into water, and ripples spread to areas they did not expect. An older sister, the one who holds herself like a person who's experienced other shocks, is the one who first speaks the question that has been humming beneath the surface of all their thinking. She sits across from their mother, one evening, the kitchen light dim, the drone of the refrigerator providing the space where words happen. She doesn't yell, yelling would make this so much harder to deny. Rather, she talks with a brusqueness that almost feels like tenderness. "Did Kody know?" she asks. The question is small, but it comes like a sharp thing. The mother's fork hangs in midair. For a moment, the entire family seems to move closer without moving. Plate clinks on porcelain sound like thunder. The narrator observes the small human things. The way a hand holds a fork differently when a person is restraining a lifetime of telling. The way a throat is cleared before a truth does not break. She glances at her daughter, and for the first time in days, her poise slips. The familiar face of the family, calm, measured, guarded, splits at the seams. Her gaze sweeps the room, not for judgment but for where to put her response. Folks pose this question in so many forms. At church suppers, in hushed tones at church receptions, in frantic texts that come in the dead of night. Whatever the wording, there is always the same implication. If Kody had known, then how do you quantify responsibility within a system in which decisions are shared? If Kody did not know, then who was watching out for whom, and why? The elegant simplicity of the question drives wedges between spouses and siblings because it demands an actor in a narrative that previously had been narrated without one. The mother draws in a too long breath to be careless. She narrates a lesser tale first. One about the time a kid lost a shoe at the park, about the way neighbors used to exchange recipes during bitter winters. These small side trips are not as much evasions as they are attempts to construct a frame in which a more difficult truth will be less damaging. But the older sister leans forward, committed to keeping the space of the moment open until something true drops into it. "Did he know?" she says again, softer. The question pulsates between them like a pulled harpstring. You can see the math on the mother's face to save a man she wed, and who remains father to her children, or to save the smaller, more fragile shards of the family, the children who will grow up thinking some things are true, unless someone sets them right. She weighs the options as any human would, reveal what will break many lives, or say nothing, and let another sort of damage continue to settle like dust. Duty and loyalty blend together into a mixture that's impossible to swallow neatly. In the yard outside, the neighborhood maintains its own clock. A sympathetic aunt calls in tears, volunteering to take in the kids if the mother requires a breather, while a friend, blunt as can be, inquires whether the family will break into factions. The divorced wife responds to both, on the same line, with the same few words. She knows that consenting to any sort of outside assistance will be interpreted as admission. "We're managing," she says, the sentence built to reassure and to deny in one motion. But every reassurance is felled by the one question they cannot avoid. The father, Kody, remains a study in careful restraint. He attends community events with his practiced ease, smiles in the right places, talks about work when pressed. But indoors, his steps are cautious, as if he is going through a museum where a touch might trigger an alarm. When he's asked if he knew by the older sister, the atmosphere becomes dense with history, the kind you smell when you open a box of clothes a year old. He doesn't offer a confession. His silence has always been speech, sometimes masterful, sometimes craven. This time it sounds nearly strategic. A refusal to be devoured by a story he doesn't want to control. The siblings begin keeping their own accounts. They gather shreds of memory, voices mimicked in the dim light of a bedroom, a disconnected phone call back then, a name mentioned incidentally at dinner. Every memory is a potential clue. Some are truthful, others are tainted with the manner in which the human mind attempts to fill in blanks. The narrator leaves space for that fallibility, since in these rooms, truth never comes as one unadorned statement. It comes fragmentarily, and not always fittingly, and sometimes those fragments are all one gets. One evening, The mother makes a move. She moves to a closet and draws down a binder from the shelf, softened by use, pages curled at the edges. She takes it to the table, opens it gingerly, and spreads her fingers over entries none of the children have ever seen. It has phone logs, several letters, notes to herself written years ago. These are not dramatic artifacts meant for documentary cameras, they are the quiet work of a life trying to keep itself in order. Yet here they are at last exposed to daylight. She doesn't give a speech. She reads out one line, something tiny but particular. An hour and an hour that puts someone somewhere exactly. The older sister listens, clenched jaw. A younger sibling holds a piece of toast in their hand, wide eyes. The sentence reorganizes the geography of the room. It shifts the scales without even trying, and the mother looks up. Her throat constricts, her voice is rough. For a beat, everyone waits, as if the next words might be the rub that either smooths everything back into a single shape or tears the fabric entirely. She opens her mouth to answer the question that has been asked again and again, and the narrator lingers on that breath, on the small tableau of a family poised at the lip of revelation. But she does not complete the sentence. She hesitates, shakes her head slightly, and utters only, "I need time." The words are plain, human, infuriatingly unfinished. They purchase postponement, yes, but they also build up pressure in the room. Time in such circumstances never heals. It permits things to shift, to thicken, to harden. That evening, in bedrooms across the house, people wonder what time will bring about. Will a confession be less difficult with days between? Will memories lose their sharpness? Will alliances solidify? Will another person, an outsider, an old acquaintance, a forgotten witness, come forward and force the truth into the light? The question of whether Kody knew still lingers there, heavy and charged, because the mother's response has left the responsibility for that knowledge to the slow, uncertain hands of future days. And as the house settles into restless sleep, the narrator leaves the reader with the knowledge that delay does not equal peace. Tomorrow will bring more than another dawn. It will bring a knock, a call, or a surprise visitor who does not realize the importance of a family's internal schedule. The actual question is no longer whether Kody knew, it is who else remembers, and who will tell first. The house stirs the next morning more quietly than normal, but not peacefully, rather a silence that precedes a storm. Plates clank against breakfast dishes, chairs scrape across the floor, and footsteps reverberate off the walls. But talk is scarce. The unresolved question of the night before, did Kody know, remains on the table, unspoken but inescapable. No one says anything, but everyone senses it, much like the scent of smoke after a candle has been extinguished. The ex-wife glides through the kitchen consciously, every move orchestrated. She fills cups, puts down mugs, and wipes a counter that doesn't require it. She promises herself that time will round off the edges. But deep within her, she knows that time does not delete. It makes sharper. It drives what was repressed into more defined focus. And last night's near answer has emboldened her children to probe. That permission flourishes rapidly. The brothers look at each other, speak in half sentences. The teen who discovered the photo doesn't bring it up again. But he doesn't need to. The photo has been circulated like contraband, whispered around late at night. The date and the face are no longer secrets. They're seeds giving rise to theories and half-articulated charges. One child remembers hearing a late-night fight muffled through the walls. Another remembers how their father disappeared during a holiday, with a cover of work but with an empty look on his face. These bits don't prove anything. But all of them build the edges of something larger, something sinister. The narrator moves in, sharing with the listener, this is how family myths fall apart. Not with one revelation, but with cracks seeping into everyday memory. One sentence too many. A misstep of tone here. And before long the infrastructure of certainty starts to break down. And once children realize there's more going on than they were told, they never cease to dig. The wives catch on as well. Conversation at meals grows smaller. Laughter sounds artificial, and the kids' gaze settle on them a fraction of a second longer than normal, like they're poised to catch them off guard. The quiet wife takes the divorced wife aside. Her tone is low, imperative. You need to say something, she advises. Or else they'll make things up on their own. The ex-wife nods her head in dismay. She understands the trap of half-truths. One misstep word can lead to a chain reaction beyond anyone's control. But silence is no longer safety. It's fuel. And each whisper, each speculation, is a spark moving closer to fire. Later that night, the teenager gambles. He sits facing Kody in the living room. Racing heart, photographs smoldering in his pocket. The television is a low hum in the background. But neither is watching. After an unendurable silence, he inquires, "Dad, where were you that year?" The question is straightforward. But the ensuing silence is deafening. Kody spins around, his gaze narrowing ever so slightly. He doesn't scream. He doesn't strike out. Instead, he smiles. Too falsely, too tightly. "That was a long time ago," he whispers. "And not all of that is important anymore." But the boy isn't appeased. "It matters to us," he says back, his voice shaking but firm. "We need to know." For an instant flash, Kody's expression reveals something primal. Fear, guilt, perhaps both. Then it disappears. Covered over with careful composure. He rises, wraps his son on the shoulder, and goes out without another word. That silence is more expressive than any confession could have been. Upstairs, the boy takes the photo out of his pocket and looks at it once more, like he is looking for evidence that he is not seeing things. And as he looks, he sees something nobody has said anything about so far in the lower left corner. Just visible. There is a blurry shape, not a face, not a hand. Smaller, a child. A child who wasn't supposed to be there. The finding goes around like wildfire. The siblings crowd around, studying the picture by flashlight, all of them believing the blurry figure signifies something else. Some say it confirms their father had a double life. Others are even saying it could account for the divorce, that their mother didn't leave due to the gift, but something that happened years and years ago. Something related to this child in the photograph. The narrator pauses here, allowing the gravity of conjecture to land. The truth remains unknown, but the effects are already palpable. Trust is wearing thin, bonds are unraveling, and the family's silence is no longer shelter. It's venom. By week's end, the house is strained to the breaking point. Doors bang harder, dinners come earlier. Even walls creak under the tension of secrets too burdensome to keep hidden. The divorced wife navigates it all through a clenched jaw, anticipating what's next. She has attempted to hold back, set the pace, but the photo has pushed events into high gear. One night, the family gathers for dinner, and the oldest daughter finally loses it. She bashes her fork down onto her plate and insists, "Tell us the truth. What happened then? Why won't you say it?" The room is frozen. All eyes move to the divorced wife. Even Kody, who is so adept at holding the reins of conversation, is quiet. The mother glances around at her children, her life, her legacy, and sees suspicion alone in return. Her heart races. Her palms shake. She knows that she cannot remain silent anymore. Her mouth opens. A word is shaped. And for the first time she starts talking about the night that has haunted her for years. The night associated with that date in the photo. The night nobody was meant to recall. But she doesn't get the chance. The front door slowly opens. A shadow enters. The children are startled. The mother pales. Because the individual in the doorway is the final one they ever thought to lay eyes on. Someone bound directly to the secret she has struggled to hide. And so too, the truth is no longer hers to command. The door groans open further. And for a frozen moment the house is unable to breathe. Forks dangle suspended in mid-air. Chairs freeze half pushed away from the table. And even the youngest child appears to know that something irrevocable has just crossed the doorway. The person in the doorway is older, more tired, weighed down by years. But the face is unmistakable. The same one that was seen in the fuzzy photograph. The one that everyone fought over. The one that ripped the family's constructed narrative apart. A ghost that lives has come into their kitchen. Nobody says anything. The only noise is the quiet thud of the door shutting, as if the house itself has closed them off with the truth. Kody moves awkwardly. his honed calm wobbling for the shortest of seconds. The ex-wife clasps the lip of the table, her knuckles white. Her kids glance from her to the visitor, seeking explanations, context, some indication that what they're witnessing isn't impossible. Finally, the visitor brings their hand to their throat and clears it. The voice is gruff, as if not having been spoken in decades. I didn't mean to walk in on all of you. They start. But I couldn't stay away any longer. The narrator leans in, bearing the reader along on the tension. Picture the feeling of all history falling upon a single moment, all rumor and suspicion suddenly fleshed out and voiced. It's not merely some stranger at the door. It's a mirror held up to something that wasn't ever meant to be looked back at. The kids look at each other. One speaks softly, almost inaudibly. That's them. The others say nothing, but their quiet is heavy with recognition. The visitor's gaze falls on the ex-wife, and for an instant the rest of the world does not matter. It is not anger that fills the air between them, but grief, an old, cumbersome grief carried too far for too long. Tell them, the visitor states softly. They have a right to know. The mother blinks. She had intended to tell slowly in her own way, in her own time. That option has now been taken from her. Her mouth opens, but the words are reluctant to come. She glances at her children, at Kody, at the visitor, and finally whispers, "This is why I left." The room responds collectively. Gasps, repositioning chairs, sudden gasps of breath. The teens who believed they wanted the truth now wish they could take it back. The smaller children hug each other, lost but intimidated by the severity surrounding them. Kody leans toward her, his jaw clenched. "You should have told me," he says, not yelling but his voice steel-edged that slices through air. "You should have told us." The visitor holds his head. "She tried," he tells him softly. "You didn't want to hear it." The narrator pauses the moment, suspending it. The whole story of the family has bifurcated into two. One silence as survival, and the other silence as treason. Which of these is true? Maybe both. The estranged wife finally finds her voice. She faces her children, her tone firm despite the shake in her hands. "There was something that occurred, something connected to your father, connected to that year. It altered everything for me. I believed that if I kept it buried, I could preserve the family intact. But keeping it buried has only shattered us in a new way." She leaves it there, unable or unwilling to go further. Her children demand information, hunger for explanation. But what they get is pieces. A missing night, a clandestine meeting, a vow given and broken. The visitor nods for each piece, validating it, affirming it. The children see that this is not one lie. This is a whole string of them, spread over years, and the enormity of it is crushing. Kody stands up, walking across the kitchen. His expression is blank, but his silence speaks volumes. The narrator flags this detail. The sight of a man who normally stalks every room with words now selecting none. For sometimes silence is more damning than any admission. The visitor, frustrated with the standoff, at last contributes. "They'll hear it sooner or later. Not from her perhaps, but from me. You can't keep it under wraps forever." The children stare at their mother, waiting. She trembles, knowing the cliff is under her feet. "I'll tell you," she whispers. "But not tonight. Not like this. It's a promise." But it feels like another delay. And for the first time, her children don't accept delay as love. They see it as avoidance. The tension boils over that evening. Upstairs, shouting erupts. The older sister accosts her mother in the hallway, her tone cutting with hurt. "You left us in the dark. You let us grow up believing lies." The wife, worn down, collapses. "I thought I was protecting you," she wails. "I thought if you never knew, you'd never carry this weight." But the daughter won't give in. "We bear it anyway," she snaps. Because silence is heavier than truth. The house is silent after that, but the damage is done. Every corner, every wall, feels different now. The visitor is gone, but her presence remains in every breath. The family can't turn back. Not to the version of themselves they were before the door opened. Tomorrow the guest will come back. And when she does, the truth will no longer be the property of one woman's memory. It will belong to all. Because when a ghost returns to your life, It doesn't depart until all of the secrets have been uttered. The next morning dawns heavily, as if the house itself is aware of what's to come. The children stir sluggishly, their slumber filled with indistinct visions of the face of the visitor, the shaking voice of their mother, the silence of their father. Even breakfast seems forced, clinking silverware, moving chairs, the sound of crunching cereal boxes, as if all of them are expecting something to break the ritual. And then it occurs. The knock at the door. The knock is firm, calculated, and unmistakable. Nobody has to question who it is. The visitor has come back, punctually bringing with them the weight of unresolved truth. The wife who was divorced waits a second before swinging open the door. She holds it for a second too long, her knuckles white, her breathing labored. When she finally opens it wide, the visitor enters with the certitude of someone who has already made up their mind. They can't turn around. Their eyes look about the room, drinking in the children perched on the stairs, Kody bracing against the wall, the wives fanning out like sentries. And then they talk. It's time, the visitor says softly. You've avoided it long enough. The narrator lets the silence sink in. This isn't just a confrontation. It's an unraveling. Years of avoidance. Fragments of memory. All coiling into a single moment where someone must finally speak the unspeakable. The family has congregated in the living room. The atmosphere is heavy, replete with the burden of what is to be disclosed. The kids are huddled close together, their eyes filled with fear and expectation. Kody is seated away from the others, arms folded, face impassive. The ex-wife sinks into a chair, eyes looking down at her lap, refusing to lift them to meet anyone's eyes. The visitor speaks slowly, with caution, as if one were handling glass. That photo you discovered. It wasn't an accident. It was evidence. Evidence of a night none of you ever should have known about. The children all lean forward. Even the young ones, though bewildered, catch the seriousness. It was years ago. The visitor goes on, voice low but resolute. A night when Kody made a decision that altered the path of all our lives. The narrator's voice tightens, going into suspense. A decision. One word. But it holds everything: betrayal, regret, shame, and outcome. The visitor stares at Kody, daring him to stop him. He doesn't. His silence is his own admission. The narrative arrives in pieces. A clandestine meeting late at night, outside the home. The promise spoken, not to the family but to another. The photo shows the aftermath. Faces posed for the lens, eyes that do not meet. And in the corner, the child who didn't belong. The visitor hesitates, the words faltering on their lips. That child was mine. The room explodes into gasps. The children gape, shocked. The ex-wife covers her eyes, a tear running down her face. The photo, once an enigma, now has a new and tragic meaning. It was more than a misplaced date. It was proof of a secret connection, a secret betrayal. The guest does not stop. Kody knew he was there. He promised me things that night, promises he never kept. And when the truth threatened to surface, it was easier for him to erase me than to face what he had done. The words remained suspended in the air, craggy and relentless. The kids looked to their father for denial, for explication, for something, anything, that can cushion the impact. But Kody is silent, jaw locked, eyes scanning the floor. The narrator pauses, allowing the tension to stew. This is the point at which the family's very foundation quakes, where loyalty and love run into betrayal and silence. The visitor has opened a door that cannot be shut. The eldest daughter speaks, her tone biting with betrayal. You lied to us, she says, and her eyes blaze into her father. All these years, you made us think. She has to stop, because the immensity of it is too terrible to express. The divorced wife finally lifts her head. Her words are gentle but unyielding. This is the reason I left. Not for what you did to me, but for what you did to them. To all of us. Kody finally lifts his head, his face changing from denial to defiance. I did what I thought I needed to do, he growls, to protect this family. Save us? The son yells, breaking into a sob. You ruined us. The narrator draws the reader in. This is the crack. The point at which a family fractures not only from what was done, but also from the deceptions that masked it. The truth entered the room, living and unignorable, and now every relationship will have to adjust. The visitor settles back, spent but determined. I didn't come here seeking revenge, they whisper. I came because your children need to know the truth, and because silence has already caused enough harm. The family sits in shocked silence. The photo, the rumors, the suspicions, they all fall into place now. But comprehension doesn't dissolve the pain. If anything, it honed it. Night falls dark over the house. The children withdraw to their bedrooms, but no one sleeps. Voices seep through the walls, indistinguishable murmurs, muffled weeping, the floorboard creak of pacing footsteps. The separated wife remains alone, gazing at the photo, tracing with her finger the indistinct figure. The visitor departs unobtrusively, but their presence persists, reverberating in each corner. The truth is out, but it is not complete, because tomorrow will raise new questions. Questions about the child in the picture, about broken promises and betrayals, about what is to happen next to a family now tied together, not only by love, but by betrayal. And the most chilling question of all remains unanswered in the silence. If Kody was able to keep this one secret for so long, what else has he kept hidden? The morning after is like a house torn apart. The walls themselves bear the memory of last night's revelation, and every nook contains its silence. Some of the children won't descend. Other members sit at the table, arms folded across chests, glaring at the uneaten food on their plates. Kody enters the kitchen, shoulders set, attempting to appear firm. But his gaze betrays him. His eyes dart, nervous, for a glimmer of authority. He attempts to clear his throat, as if the sound itself will ground the family back into stability. We need to talk, he states aggressively, but his voice quavers on the final syllable. The kids are looking up, their faces creased with fatigue and frustration. The ex-wife stands in the doorway, arms crossed hard, observing but not acting. She has had her say. Now it's his turn. But when Kody speaks, the words fall short of what he means. I messed up, he starts, his voice argumentative. But all the things I did to protect this family, to keep us together. The oldest son pushes away from the table, his chair scraping against the floor. Protect us? You call deception for years protection. His fists are clenched at his sides, the pressure of betrayal bearing down upon his young shoulders. The narrator pauses here, allowing the feeling to register, the anguish of children who learn that their father is not the man they believed him to be, and the frustration of a parent who has lost the ability to protect himself. Kody attempts again. It wasn't all about me. It was about all of you. I thought that if the truth were known, it would tear us apart, and I couldn't allow that to happen. The ex-wife interrupts, her tone firm but hard. But it did tear us up, Kody. The silence tore us up, the lies tore us up, and now your children are left to clean up the mess. A silence descends over the room. The children look at one another, some with tears in their eyes, others with resentment, but all of them with questions that need answers. The youngest daughter, her voice shaking, asks the only question no one else has the courage to ask. Daddy, is the other child my brother? The room becomes frozen. Everyone holds their breath, hearts racing. Kody goes white. He doesn't say anything at first, and that silence is answer enough. Yes, he finally says, his voice barely above a whisper. Yes, he is. Gasps travel around the table. Some of the kids break down crying. Others are left sitting in stunned silence, their worlds unraveling in slow motion. The truth is not just betrayal. It's blood, it's heritage, it's family redefined, in ways they can't even begin to understand. The narrator leans forward in hushed ferocity. No longer a rumor. No longer a secret photo. This is living truth. A brother they never knew. A shared bond denied. A secret redone into their very existences. The divorced wife turns away, covering her mouth, her shoulders convulsing. Not because she's shocked, but because hearing it said aloud breaks something she thought she'd already buried. The oldest daughter stands rigidly. Her voice shakes but has fire in it. You don't get to tell us you did this for us. You did this for yourself. In order to save your name, your pride. And now we're the ones who have to bear your shame. Kody moves towards her, his hand extended. Please, listen. But she draws back, her eyes flashing. No, you listen, we don't even know who we are anymore because of you. The tension is built, then eased a little with a retention line, and just when it seems the truth can't shatter them further, a new voice joins the tempest. A knock at the door. Again, everyone is frozen. They already know who it is. The visitor is back, not because of choice, but necessity. They enter, the face wearied but firm. They have a small envelope in their hand. This, the visitor holds up, is evidence, not only of the past, but of the future. Kody's body tenses. What are you doing? I'm providing them with the truth that you never had the guts to, the visitor says. The kids hunch forward as the envelope is put on the table. Nobody is willing to touch it initially. At last, the son next to it opens it. There are photographs. New ones. Fresh and up to date. They feature the child. Grown older. Familiar eyes. Hauntingly recognizable smile. A brother who resembles them, though they have never met. The room drops into stunned silence. It's no longer theoretical. No longer a secret held in the past. It's real, solid, undeniable. The youngest breathes. He looks like us. The divorced wife breathes back. Because he is. The narrator lets the weight of the moment hang heavy. Each heartbeat in the room holds a question. What comes next? Kody finally speaks, his voice trembling. He's not a part of this family. Not technically. That was never the deal. The visitor looks at him with contempt. Deals don't wash away blood. Deals don't wash away truth. The children's eyes move away from Kody to the visitor, to the photos that line the table. Their world has shifted once more, and nothing can erase it as it once was. This is no longer a revelation but a choice. Do the kids swallow their father's silence and erase one brother they never knew? Or do they accept the truth and risk disintegrating their troubled family further? As night descends once again, one thing is for sure. The secret is no longer a secret. It's breathing. It has a name, a face, and a space in their hearts that cannot be denied. And the true fight hasn't even started yet. Because now, the kids aren't only fighting to know the past. They're fighting to choose the future. And tomorrow, someone will do something that alters it all. The night following the photos emerging is fitful. Doors close gently. Footsteps pass along corridors, and whispers weave through the quiet. Nobody actually sleeps. Because how can you sleep when everything you believed about your family has been reworded? By morning, the tension is too much to bear. The children congregate in the living room alone. Not with their father. Not with the visitor. Not even with their mother leading them. For the first time, they talk to each other not as in-shock siblings, but as voices looking for a lead. The oldest daughter sits cross-legged on the carpet, her arms folded tightly. We can't just pretend this didn't happen, she says. We have a brother out there. And if Dad won't acknowledge him, then maybe it's up to us. The middle brother shakes his head, torn. But what does that even mean? Do we just go to his door? Do we tell him everything? What if he doesn't even know? The little ones listen, their big eyes flitting from face to face. The eldest son breaks into speech at last, his voice low, even, and weightier than it ought to be for one so young. We have the right to know him, and he has the right to know us. The speaker pulls the listener in, leaning into the feeling of siblings assuming a place no child should ever have to bear. The weight of truth in a family of silence. The divorced wife enters, her face fatigued but gentle. She doesn't attempt to intervene. She simply listens. And when the children fall silent, she speaks softly. I left because I couldn't bear this secret anymore. I won't tell you what to do. But whatever decision you make, it will alter everything. Her words linger in the air, weighted with warning and liberty, both. That's when Kody walks in. His presence immediately changes the atmosphere. Shoulders stiffen, gazes harden, voices fall. He senses it, the wall that's already grown between him and his children. But he doesn't retreat. You're not going to see him, he says firmly, almost before anyone speaks. This isn't your battle. It's mine. And it's over. The eldest gets up. Not over. Dad, you don't get to just shut this down. Because you don't like it. He is. He's our brother. And you don't get to make him go away. Kody's face clenches. You don't know what the consequences are. If you go down that road. If you bring him into this. Everything breaks down. Not this family, but all the things I've worked for. The narrator cuts the tone occult here, emphasizing the collision. Kody is battling authority, and his children are battling reality. Two opposing forces colliding, neither of them willing to back down. The theme of the son who opened the envelope now gets up. His voice trembles but becomes more confident with each sentence. Everything already fell apart. You just don't want to admit it. And here, as the argument seems on the verge of splitting the room in two, the narrator throws in a booster line. But just as the tensions are boiling over, something unexpected occurs. Something which tips the whole balance. The youngest child, hardly old enough to grasp the intricacies, peers up at her father with brimming eyes and says, "Why don't you love him too?" The room goes quiet. No one catches their breath. The question cuts through the madness with agonized naivety, the sort of brutal honesty that only a child can muster. Kody struggles for words. "It's not that I don't. It's complicated." But even as he says it, the kids can hear the emptiness. There isn't a good enough explanation. Not anymore. His ex-wife finally speaks up, her voice shaking but resolute. "They need to know him, Kody. Not keeping them apart will keep them safe. It will hurt them more." Kody's anger erupts. "And what about me? What about all that I've given up? You treat me like some sort of villain. But I made the decisions nobody else was tough enough to make." The language is heavy, desperate, near pleading, but no one goes to him. Rather, the children move closer to each other, creating a quiet circle of solidarity. The chasm has never been wider. The absence of the visitor is especially noticeable now, as if their presence was the string that kept the delicate truth intact. But even their absence cannot erase the truth. The photos remain on the table. The questions remain unanswered. The brother remains out there. The narrator leans in, whispering, pulling the listener into the seriousness of the moment. This isn't about betrayal anymore. It's about identity, about belonging, about if love is large enough to hold even the errors that sought to kill it. The oldest son rises again, his words piercing the silence. "If you won't invite him into this family, then we will." Kody's eyes open wide. "You don't know what you're saying." "Yes, we do," his daughter says. "You've kept secrets long enough. Now we're done living in your shadow." A storm clouds within the house. The kids have spoken, and their words have a finality to them that even Kody cannot stop. But his denial seethes just as intensely, and it is apparent that this battle is far from over. Night falls and the house grows colder than before. The divorced wife sits in her room, hands against her face, whispering prayers for fortitude. The children whisper together, planning, their will strengthening. Kody walks up and down the hall, muttering to himself, trapped between anger and fear, control and collapse. The narrator pulls the session to its end tension, tightening the knot. The question is no longer if the truth will reform them. It's how. And when the lights fade, the eldest daughter whispers to her brothers, "Tomorrow we find him." The decision has been made. The children will search out the brother their father has withheld them from, no matter what. And with that choice, the story pivots into dangerous territory, because finding him means uncovering more secrets than they ever imagined. The following morning comes like a drumbeat, persistent and relentless. The children rise with an almost nervous energy that even breakfast is powerless to dispel. They pass glances in place of words, their scheme committed to silence. Kody, moving back and forth in another room, thinks his warning has been heeded. But the reality is, it is already too late. At noon, the eldest child calls her siblings into the yard. Her tone is soft, desperate. "We can't wait any longer. If we don't do it now, Dad will find a way to prevent it. Today we leave." The narrator pauses, piling suspense. Their choice isn't careless. It's unavoidable, bred of a hunger that transcends fear. The middle son hesitates, shifting uneasily. "What if he doesn't want to meet us? What if we're just strangers to him?" The oldest son answers firmly. "He deserves the chance to decide that, not Dad, not anyone else." The younger ones nod, even if they don't fully understand. They've grown up in a world shaped by silence, and for the first time, they are reaching beyond it. The divorced wife sees the quiet cluster from the window. She does not interfere. Her heart hurts, caught between concern for their safety and pride in their bravery. She knows what they are risking, but she knows also what silence has already cost them. And just when the suspense is mounting, the narrator throws in a retention spark. What they don't know is that Kody is already one step ahead, and the war between the truth and the control is going to clash head-on. The kids slip out quietly, packing into the oldest brother's car. The road stretches out before them, strange and thick with potential. None of them say anything at first. The rumble of the engine holds their silent questions, their fears, their hopes. Eventually, the youngest girl cracks the quiet. What do we even say when we see him? The oldest daughter tightens her hand. We tell him the truth, that we're his family, that we should have known him all along. Their words have both bravery and vulnerability, because they have no idea how he will respond. But their resolve drives them, mile by mile. Meanwhile, back at the house, Kody discovers their absence. Panic flashes across his face, quickly hardened into fury. He storms through the rooms, calling their names, realizing too late that his grip has slipped. The photographs are gone from the table. They've taken them with them. They're going after him, Kody mutters, his voice cracking. He grabs his keys, his mind racing. He knows exactly where they'll go. The narrator heightens the tension here. Two roads, two cars, traveling towards the same place. A broken family about to crash into its secret truth. The children then finally come to a peaceful street. The house is not elaborate. It's plain, practically hurtful. A peeling paint porch, a swing creaking in the wind, a bicycle flung haphazardly across the lawn. It's any other house, except that it harbors within it the boy who has unwittingly borne their family's secret on his shoulders. They get out of the car slowly, nerves knotting with each step towards the door. The oldest son lifts his hand to ring, but his fist hovers in the air, shaking. "Do we really want this?" he breathes. "Yes," his sister replies, her voice firm. "We need this." He raps on the door. Once, twice, the knock rings out louder than it should. And then the door squeaks open. There he is, the boy, their brother. His eyes grow wide as he glances over the group. Confusion entwining with something unsaid, almost primal. He resembles them. The same jaw, the same eyes, a reflection of facial features they've shared all their lives without ever realizing. "May I assist you?" he inquires, his tone guardedly curious. The oldest daughter draws a breath, her own voice trembling as she speaks. Where your siblings?" The boy is frozen, his grip on the doorframe tightening. "What?" The narrator leans forward, suspending suspense. The truth has caught up with him, but his world isn't yet prepared for it. There is no time for them to explain before lights shine across the lawn. Gravel crunches beneath tires. A car door slams shut. Kody has arrived. His voice slices through the air like a blade. "Get away from this house." The kids spin around, their father moving forward with anger in his eyes. The boy standing at the door looks on, confused, torn between strangers who claim to be siblings and a man who exudes power and fury. "This isn't your house." Kody growls at his kids. "You don't belong here." The oldest son moves forward, standing in front of his siblings. "No, Dad, you don't get to make that choice anymore." The boy at the door gazes left and right, his chest heaving. "What is this?" he demands. Kody barks, "Nothing that involves you." But the eldest daughter cuts in, her voice cracking with insistence. "It involves you, because you're one of us." The boy's face goes white. "What do you mean?" The silence that ensues is choking. Each breath, each beat in that instant is heavy with a lifetime of deception. At last, the estranged wife comes along, having tracked the madness, her voice shaking but firm. She gazes firmly at the boy and declares, "You're his son, you're their brother, and you deserve to know the truth." The boy falls back, his hand grasping the door frame. His whole world takes a turn. The narrator lingers here, holding the moment on the blade of a knife. The truth is no longer hidden, no longer rumors behind closed doors. It's alive, out loud, inescapable. Kody's face contorts with desperation. "Don't listen to them," he begs, but his words ring hollow even to himself. The boy glares at him, the eyes wide in betrayal and disbelief. And then, his voice shattering the night, He utters the only question that matters. Why didn't you tell me? The truth has come to the one person Kody feared, and the question hangs between them, waiting for an answer that will never be enough.